If you're an endomorph, refined carbohydrates aren't just another dietary indulgence, they represent a fundamental mismatch between your biology and the modern food environment. Foods like white bread, pastries, sugary cereals, and processed snacks are engineered for rapid digestion. They enter the bloodstream quickly, spike insulin aggressively, and for the endomorph body type, that spike carries a particularly heavy cost. Insulin isn't merely a storage hormone. It's a signal that tells your body what to do with energy. And when that signal is loud and frequent, the message is clear: store, don't burn. Now here's where it becomes psychologically interesting. Refined carbohydrates don't just affect your waistline, they influence your perception of hunger, motivation, and even self-control. A rapid rise in blood sugar is followed by an equally rapid crash, and that crash feels like fatigue, irritability, and craving. You interpret it as weakness, as a lack of discipline, when in reality, it's a predictable biological response. The body is reacting exactly as it was designed to react under conditions of nutritional chaos. Over time, this cycle trains you into dependency, where food is no longer nourishment but a short-term emotional regulator. For endomorphs, this pattern is especially destructive because the body is already efficient at conserving energy. Refined carbs amplify that tendency. They blunt fat oxidation, increase insulin resistance, and quietly teach the body that excess energy is the norm. Philosophically speaking, this is what happens when convenience replaces intention. You outsource responsibility to hyperpalatable foods, and in return, you surrender metabolic autonomy. The result is not just weight gain, but a sense of being at war with your own body. Removing refined carbohydrates isn't an act of punishment. It's an act of alignment. When you replace them with whole, fiber-rich carbohydrates, proteins, and healthy fats, something remarkable happens. Hunger becomes predictable, energy stabilizes, decision-making improves. You're no longer negotiating with cravings every 2 hours. The mind regains authority over impulse, and the body begins to respond accordingly. And this is the deeper point. Weight loss for endomorphs isn't about eating less. It's about eating in a way that restores order. When you stop feeding the chaos, the system reorganizes itself. Take control of what spikes your insulin, and you take control of the trajectory of your life. If refined carbohydrates are the obvious threat, liquid calories are the invisible one. They slip into your routine almost unnoticed, dressed up as harmless habits or even virtuous choices. A glass of fruit juice in the morning, a sweetened coffee in the afternoon, a smoothie that looks like health but behaves like dessert. For the endomorph, this is where the real sabotage often occurs, because these calories bypass the body's natural systems of restraint. From a biological standpoint, the problem is brutally simple. Liquid calories do not require chewing. They move rapidly through the stomach, and they fail to trigger the hormonal signals that tell you you've had enough. Your brain never receives the message that energy has arrived. Yet your bloodstream is suddenly flooded with sugar. Insulin rises, fat storage is encouraged, and hunger returns far sooner than it should. Psychologically, this creates confusion. You feel as though you're not eating that much. Yet the scale tells a different story. That gap between perception and reality erodes trust in your own judgment. For endomorphs, the liver becomes the silent victim in this process. Excess liquid sugar, especially fructose, must be processed quickly, and when the liver is overwhelmed, it converts that energy into fat. This is not a moral failure, it's a physiological inevitability. And yet, people internalize the outcome as personal weakness. Over time, this disconnect breeds resignation. You start to believe your body is broken, when in truth, it's responding perfectly to an environment that's misaligned with human design. There's also a philosophical dimension here worth confronting. Drinking calories is the ultimate expression of convenience culture. It removes friction entirely. No effort, no pause, no awareness. And when friction disappears, so does self-regulation. You consume without ceremony, without attention, without meaning. The body, deprived of boundaries, does what it has always done in times of surplus: it stores. Eliminating liquid calories isn't about restriction, it's about restoring reality. When you drink water, tea, or black coffee and eat your calories instead, fullness returns, appetite becomes intelligible, and energy stabilizes. You regain clarity, not just metabolically, but mentally. And the reflection to carry with you is this: if your calories don't demand your attention, they will demand your waistline. Choose awareness, and the body will follow. If refined carbohydrates create chaos and liquid calories quietly undermine restraint, ultra-processed fats and fried foods complete the trap by distorting the body's internal signaling systems. For endomorphs, these foods don't merely add calories. They interfere with the very mechanisms that tell you when to stop eating. Industrial seed oils, fast food, packaged snacks, and deep-fried meals are engineered for maximum palatability, not human flourishing. They hijack the brain's reward circuitry, while simultaneously dulling the hormonal signals responsible for satiety. At the biological level, these fats drive inflammation and disrupt leptin, the hormone that communicates fullness and long-term energy balance to the brain. When leptin signaling is impaired, you can eat more and feel less satisfied, a profoundly destabilizing state. The body begins to act as though it's under constant threat of scarcity, even in the presence of excess. For the endomorph, whose physiology already favors energy conservation, this becomes a perfect storm. Fat storage accelerates, while metabolic efficiency declines. Psychologically, this produces a subtle but corrosive effect. You start to mistrust your own hunger cues. You eat, but you're never quite done. And over time, that erodes discipline, not because you lack character, but because the environment is structured to overpower it. This is where many people fall into moral self-condemnation, mistaking biochemical manipulation for personal failure. But chaos, when left unchallenged, always expands, and ultra-processed fats are chaos in edible form. There's a deeper philosophical lesson here. When food becomes engineered entertainment, it loses its role as nourishment and turns into a constant stimulus. You're no longer eating to sustain yourself. You're responding to an artificial signal designed to keep you consuming. That relationship fractures something essential: the alignment between effort, reward, and meaning. The body responds by storing energy for a future it never quite trusts will be stable. Removing fried and ultra-processed foods is not about adopting dietary purity. It's about restoring integrity. When you return to whole food fats, olive oil, nuts, seeds, natural animal fats, the body recognizes the signal. Satiety returns. Cravings quiet down. Eating becomes deliberate again rather than compulsive. And here's the thought worth carrying forward. When you stop consuming foods that confuse your biology stops working against you. Order replaces noise, and fat loss becomes a consequence of clarity, not suffering.